Hello dear Motorsport-Magazin.com friends and Formula One fans. That was it, the season of the year, and at the very end, world champion Max Verstappen once again didn't cover himself in glory. Neither on nor off the track. Initially he got off to a great start, but then collided with Oscar Piastri in turn 1, spinning the McLaren driver around and losing a lot of time himself. Later in the race he was given a 10-second penalty, which ultimately prevented him from finishing higher than 6th place. However, the outcome had little significance as he had nothing to gain from it. The incident in turn 1 was very frustrating for McLaren. McLaren was still in the race for the Constructors' Championship, which we'll discuss soon, while Verstappen had nothing to gain. However, he dared to take that risk on the first turn. Moreover, he did not stop there. He lost his cool again, or maybe it's better to say he lost control. No, after serving his penalty, he expressed his displeasure over the radio, saying, well, why don't we just sit out 20 seconds instead? And then something happened. He was really rude with his words. He directed some harsh words at the stewards, calling them stupid idiots. He didn't explicitly say he meant the stewards, but I think it was pretty clear who he was referring to. This whole situation is a bit strange, because the question of blame was clear, and Verstappen himself acknowledged that it was his fault. Afterward, he went to Oscar Piastri and apologized right after the race, saying he felt really bad, because Oscar is a great guy and a good friend. Therefore, it's perplexing as to why, if he accepts responsibility, he would then launch a verbal attack against the stewards. Additionally, we internally deliberated on this matter. Yes, the question of guilt is clear, but lap 1, turn 1, there were perhaps a few times during the season when you were a little more lenient with another driver. In the case of Qatar's race last week, Nico Hülkenberg was possibly not subject to any penalties, for instance. It's perhaps a 50-50 situation. We can argue a lot about consistency, but Verstappen was at fault, I believe. It came as quite a surprise when he reacted so strongly on the radio, especially since everyone involved was in agreement on that matter. Oscar Piastri, displaying his usual calm demeanor, expressed on the radio that the action he witnessed indeed qualified as a move worthy of a champion. He was, of course, being a bit ironic. Mr. Verstappen is fortunate, I'd say, because insulting the stewards. In today's world, it is crucial to be mindful when speaking. Moreover, Verstappen's required community service was announced today. Thus, remaining cautious with our words is more important than ever. He insulted his car somewhat during the press conference in Singapore, and now it's clear. He will go to the FIA Gala in Rwanda, where he will spend another day with the National Motorsport Association and take care of young motorsport talents, so that is clear, but that he didn't receive a penalty for it today. I find it a bit surprising as he didn't insult his car today, but rather directed his frustration towards the stewards. Of course, one could argue that emotions differ when in the car. I totally agree with that perspective, but bear in mind that expressing such sentiments to a rival could potentially cause offense to them. It can be. In the heat of the moment, I have no problem with it at all. But these are official. It's like when you insult the referee on the football pitch, and then you get sent off. I'm not of the opinion that he should get a black flag. Please don't get me wrong, but nevertheless, they did their job. And to insult them for that, well, maybe I turned a blind eye, balancing justice, you could say, perhaps after the press conference in Singapore. Maybe they followed Walter Röhrl's lead, the stewards here, following the idea that you can't treat a car like the stewards, a car needs love. That's enough about Max Verstappen, but now let's focus on the good stuff, the Constructors' Championship. Surprisingly, McLaren succeeded in pulling it off, despite Oscar Piastri's drop to last place at the beginning. However, it required considerable effort. After a stellar start, Charles Leclerc impressively climbed from 19th to 8th place, and it's plausible that he might have ended up in 2nd place regardless. McLaren was definitely nervous about that. Oscar Piastri, who then had delivered a commendable performance but was penalized for colliding with Franco Colapinto's vehicle during the race. As a result, he didn't finish higher than 10th, and Ferrari actually took 2nd and 3rd places. That was a very dangerous situation for McLaren at that point, because if Norris had made a mistake, an unfortunate safety car could have come out. And if one of the Ferraris had passed Norris, then Ferrari would have won the championship. In the end, it was 14 points. You get 7 more points for winning, so you can imagine if Sainz had passed Norris, Ferrari would have been Constructors' champions. That was actually a very tight situation. Considering how the race played out, it was perhaps not close, because Norris dominated the thing at the front, at the latest in the second stint. In the first stint on the medium tyre, Sainz was perhaps a bit faster. Despite Ferrari struggling a bit on the hard tyres, they managed to stay relatively close. However, it is important to acknowledge Lando Norris, who faced immense pressure and performed exceptionally well. Piastri, despite falling behind, bravely held his ground and weathered the relentless pressure. Not a moment of dread came from a safety car phase, and neither did any mishaps with tires or engine failures present themselves. But that could have taken a significant turn, especially during the pit stop, as Lando Norris went in for his tire change. Ferrari put McLaren under pressure with the undercut, and if something had gone wrong at this pit stop, they might have lost the lead, because before that, they were still really close together. That was remarkable mental strength displayed by McLaren, not only Lando Norris, but the entire team. One must say, hats off. They delivered an outstanding performance today. Throughout the season, it's truly unbelievable to comprehend that it has been 2 decades without acquiring a single title and no Constructors' Championship for McLaren, considering their rich history. In the year 1998, Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard, who were both present at the time, concluded their actions. Lastly, by the way, they left an impact. Andrea Stella joined the team in 2015, together with Fernando Alonso at the time. And today he said that back then we were 5 seconds behind the pole position in qualifying. Yes, the Honda engine was part of it, but McLaren was on the brink of bankruptcy a few years ago. The team was at the brink of collapse. And now to secure this Constructors' title, to achieve this turnaround, I believe. Today, let's remember Andreas Seidel, who has often been overlooked in this whole narrative. Keep him close in our thoughts, but he was the one who achieved the initial turnaround with McLaren, and I believe he deserves at least a small piece of this title. The McLaren can look forward to the Constructors' title. Your friends can probably look forward to the best presents ever for Christmas, Gutschein.motorsport-magazin.com, if you want to give away a print edition, not just one, but a whole year of Motorsport Magazine in the print edition. You won't enslave yourself for the rest of your life. So definitely a good idea for Christmas. Today was certainly highly emotional, not just because of the McLaren title. Lewis Hamilton also wept quite a bit. His final race for Mercedes marked the end of an era, and despite a challenging qualifying session yesterday, he delivered a stellar performance in today's race. A remarkable comeback indeed. At the beginning, he had a challenging time since he started with hard tires. Nevertheless, he managed to stay out for a long time and eventually delivered an extraordinary performance by switching to medium tires at the end. It was an incredible performance as he made a remarkable effort to catch up with his teammate Russell and successfully clinched 4th place. It was a fantastic race for him and very emotional. Before the race, I observed his face closely, and there were already numerous tears shed prior to the commencement. You could tell that it was something special. Russell also recognized it today. It was well deserved that he overtook me. He was faster than me the whole weekend. Toto Wolff seemed a bit mournful. Without yesterday's qualifying, there might have even been a chance for victory, but it's all hypothetical now. In the overall situation, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are somewhat secondary, you could say. This year has been difficult. Hamilton mentioned today it was the longest year of his life. It would have been like breaking up with your partner and then living together for another year. That was really tough, especially when Peter Ponnenneck said for the last time, probably in his career, hammer time. There were definitely some tears, but we pay our respects to Lewis Hamilton. It's not over yet. A new chapter will start at Ferrari next year. McLaren took the Constructors' Championship, and Alpine clearly secured the smaller Constructors' Championship. Alpine crossed the finish line in 6th position with great success and more. They capitalized on their advantage. Pierre Gasly had an extraordinary performance in the race. And as a result, he has now overtaken Nico Hülkenberg in the Drivers' Championship, securing a place in the top 10. Although Hülkenberg's disappointment is understood from a German viewpoint, his loss was ultimately justified. It wasn't the penalty Hülkenberg received yesterday that cost Haas 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. No, even if Hülkenberg had finished ahead of Gasly, it wouldn't have changed anything. It was tough luck for Kevin Magnussen, who had a fantastic start, but then had problems at the pit stop and got taken out by Valtteri Bottas. Nico Hülkenberg could have stretched himself, but it still wouldn't have secured 6th place in the Constructors' standings. So Haas is in 7th place. Even if it was disappointing, they know where they started, so it's really not that serious. That concludes the last race, but it's certainly not the end here on the channel. First, a big thank you for your loyalty all year. It's been fantastic with you. We will keep following everything. And a big thanks goes to the team working behind the scenes, who you don't see much, but hopefully you'll see more of them during the winter break. We're still a long way from being finished. We still have the analysis with Christian Danner in the AVD Motorsport-Magazin, where we'll review the season. And if you have questions, as always, use the hashtag #AskAvt, and with a bit of luck, your question might be included. But I promise the season has ended, but we have much more ahead for you, and There is also a test taking place. We will still be present at the location.